Welcome back to the It's Beyond Me podcast. It's your girl Drift Nasty. Again, I don't have Freddie T with me. He's also working and he hasn't been feeling good for this past week, so that's why we haven't been getting on. But I figured the show has to go on, so I went ahead and decided to do another video, maybe two today, to give y'all something to think about because we had to go out to town yesterday and we were listening to the news on the radio. I'm not particularly one for the news anymore because I kind of picked up on a lot of the fear mongering and the baiting and things that they like to talk about. So I kind of fell off from that, but the mother-in-law loves it, so we ended up listening to it. And we were listening to how pretty much Biden completely lied about everything that he said when he was being elected president and continued to lie about on into 2021 when he said that there would be no tax hikes on the middle class. Actually, to quote it directly, he said, quote, nobody making under $400,000 annually would have their taxes raised, period, bingo, end quote. And from what we were listening to yesterday, that was a complete lie because now taxes will be raised on anybody who makes less than $400,000, incredibly. And the tax bracket in general is going up 7% per bracket, which would put us at anyone who's making up to $11,000, you're going to be taxed 10%. And if you are married jointly, you're doubling that. So it would be $22,000. If you're going to be jointly, then you would be taxed up to 10%. If you make over that, over the 11,000 and over 22,000 filing jointly, you're going to be taxed 12%. If you make over 44,725 individually or 89,450 married jointly, you're going to be taxed 22%. So it jumped way on up. We went from 10, 12 to 22%. I'll come back to that. If you make over $375,000 individually, then you'll be taxed 24%, and married filing jointly, that would be $190,750. If you make over $182,100 individually, you'll be taxed 32%, and that is $364,200 married jointly. If you make over $578,125 individually, you're going to be taxed 37%. And jointly, that would be $693,750. If you make that annually, you'll be be taxed 37%. Now, the problem with the numbers, if you pay attention to it, because they always say, oh, well, those who make the most money are the ones who's going to foot the bill for taxes. Okay, so if you go just off the number alone, okay, yeah, if you're making over the $578,125 individually, yeah, you're going to get taxed the most percentage, as in 37%. But the biggest jump comes between that making over 11,000 to the 44,725 and up, right? Because that's where that 22% comes in. It went from 12 to 22%. It jumped a whole 10%. The problem with that is that's where the majority of working families fall into. Not the rich, who can afford to pay their taxes, and they do all kinds of things like fundraisers, or what do they call them? Yeah. It's something, like they do all those charities. There it is. They do the charities and things like that, but guess what? Those are tax write-offs at the end of the year. So they get that money back, or a percentage of it back, however it works. So it's like it never came out their pocket in general. But yeah, if you work extra hard to be able to survive out here with inflation and the way that our paychecks and the things that we have to buy to survive don't balance, if you have to work extra hard just to be able to get by, well, then they're going to tax you the most, not in percentage number, but you're paying more than what the people who are just under your bracket are paying. You're paying 10% more than what the people just under your bracket are paying. Now, going back to the inflation. Okay, back just recently, October 2022, CNN was quoted saying that inflation may be pushing prices up, but it may also help push up your take-home pay starting next year, which is this year, 2023. Now, here's what's wrong with that. It sounds good. Oh, yeah, inflation's going up, but so will your checks. But as long as that level of inflation remains the same, like if you make $12 an hour and whatever it is that you're trying to buy costs $50, and then they take that $12 an hour and then they lift it up to $20 an hour, you would think, okay, well, now I'll be able to afford this $50 thing, right? No, now that's also going to go up because of inflation. So instead of it being $50, now it's $80. So it stays at this right here. Paycheck, what you need to buy. So it doesn't matter how much this goes up with it. The gap doesn't fill. So all that talk about, oh, inflation's gonna go up, but your checks are gonna go up, it's not always a good thing for your checks to go up. They need to be talking about lowering inflation. If the gap between what needs to be bought and your check doesn't close, you still can't afford it. You get paid more, and then it makes you frustrated even more. Because I come from a family that come up really hard. We was nowhere near rich. We was poor. And my dad worked very hard to get us by with what he had, what we got. He's worked with plants his whole life in the nursery. And I watched his struggle. It took him until he was an older man in order for him to be getting paid good pay. Now my husband, he makes decent money with what he makes in the health field. And even for him to have decent money, which was better than what we were coming up on, yeah, we don't struggle, so to say, but we're far from being able to get by and play because of the inflation. Even though he makes more than what my dad made when we were kids, me and my sister were kids, and he was raising us. He makes more than that, and we still had to decide between things. We don't have leisure. Like, there's no leisure. I'm just saying, we're all kind of getting fooled. We're getting the wool pulled over our eyes, or being robbed, and nobody seems to have a point with it. At this point, I'm like, if anybody else decides to vote for Biden at 2024, you're a moron. Moron. I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I'm nothing. Matter of fact, my registration, my voter registration card says no party, no affiliation. Because I don't vote for the party. And that's another big part of what's going on here. I don't know how nobody else realizes it, but just the fact of our voting process is not fair. When you look at it, the people who have in the last umpteen years been elected have either been Republican or Democrat. There's way more parties than just Republican and Democrat. There's the Green Party, Tea Party, Independent Party. There's more than that. All these parties, but they don't get elected. They also don't have a primary, because when you're in the elections, you have everybody runs, even those independent Tea parties, Green parties, all them, they all run together, but only the Republican and Democratic Party get what's called a primary election, because they're the primary parties. And why are they the primary parties, you ask? Well, because they're the two parties that are majorly backed by the banks. So you're playing a banks game. And they do these things, like the inflation and toying with the tax increases and things like that. They play those games because it's all to control the power. You control the money, you control everything. You're not allowed to get ahead. Because if you get ahead, well, then you take away from their money. You see what I mean? It's all about, in a way, I get it. Like, I mean, if I was them, I would probably do it too. Because that's how you keep your money. But at the end of the day, it's not fair. So for anybody to sit up here and then believe that our voting system or the way that we treat our everyday citizens is fair, it's not. It's not a race thing. I don't think it's a woman or a man thing. It's more so of a poor thing. The poorer you are, the more you're going to get screwed. That's how it's always been, and that's how how it looks like it's always going to be. Hopefully it'll change one day, but I mean, change doesn't just happen. People got to get up and make a change. Like, there's this man, I was watching a TikTok, and I seen where this man, Mr. Welch, was making a speech about something, and it's crazy because these people are way ahead by some years. Like, these things are planned out long ago, and then slowly but surely their plans fall into place. This man was making a speech back in 1958 about the way that they were trying to screw the American country over. I'll probably end up having to do another one on him by itself because it'll get kind of lengthy. But yeah, this man, Mr. Welch, he ran this place, this like founding facility. It was called JBS, and he was at a meeting, and then he gave a speech about the long-term plan, right? And the long-range plan was, quote, to induce the gradual surrender of American sovereignty piece by piece and step by step to various international organizations, such as but not limited to the United Nations. The surrender of the sovereignty piece by piece of Americans. And I'll have to go into it because he's got like 10 examples, 10 things, 10 of these so-called steps that they're supposed to be taking, and then you'll see the way that it's played in today. This was back in 1958, which means it was planned before that. We're probably talking about a plan that was back in the 40s or 30s. Think about it. And then all people do is just keep getting sucked into the Republican and Democrat propaganda, really. All they're doing is telling you what they need, what you want to hear, and what they need you to believe in order for them to make it into office. They're not being held accountable for any of it. Like, as you can see, Biden could say, oh, well, I'll get in office and no taxes will be raised on the middle class. But they got taxed way on up there. And then they don't go down, they only go up. So here we are with a 7% per bracket tax increase. It was already hard for you before. Imagine what the next tax increase is going to be. And I'm not Republican, but I can't help but remember that that's exactly what Trump said. He said if Biden was to become president, this country will see, how did he word it? He's basically talking about our financial troubles, but a recession. He was like, we'll see a recession unlike this country has ever seen before. And here we go. It's going on again. Everybody heard about the Great Depression and things like that before, but nobody's paying attention to how did we come into that Great Depression. What do we need to do to avoid going back into the Great Depression? Because that's what happens after the recession is a depression. And then the people who can't grow their own food or don't have livestock for meat, they're going to face some real trouble. They're going to have to rely on their neighbor. And we all know there ain't a whole lot of neighborly love out in the world anymore because they've did their best to pit each other against, or everybody against each other. So good luck with that. And they did their best to take ag and things like that out of school. That's not an everyday thing. Not every school has agriculture class anymore, which would have taught you how to plant food, taught you how to ride tractors, plow grounds, necessity things, instead of teaching the kids about, there's 72 genders out here that you have to pick from. You could teach them how to pick tomatoes, peppers, peanuts, all kind, watermelons, anything, whatever they need in order to eat when the grocery stores ain't there to provide for you anymore. It's not just there being handed to you on the shelf. Which, that's what these last couple years should have woken y'all up when COVID hit and it caused for us not to have food, because that makes sense. It caused us not to have food on the shelves and things. You've seen what it's like when the stores don't have it just there for you. You gotta be more self-sufficient, self-reliant, stop relying on the government, because that's what we've done for a long time, to the point where our children don't know how to fend for themselves. So that's what I had to say today. Biden's an idiot. Biden needs to get up out of office. I'm pretty much done with the Democratic Party. See, my grandmother from Alabama, before she passed, she was a Democrat. And then at one point, I want to say it was like 2000, maybe it was 2016 or something. There was somewhere in there. She told me, she was like, I used to be a stern Democrat, like gun hole, just voting the party line. But she even told me, she was like, I'm not for it anymore. They're too liberal with money. That's the difference. Because there are Republicans that are liberal and there are Democrats who are conservative, but for the most part it's the other way around. And liberals are more liberal with their money. They're more willing to spend. They're not trying to hold the dollar. Conservatives are trying to conserve their money. And that's what we need. We don't need liberals in office who are more than willing to spend more money. But I mean, that's part of the plan. That's the thing. We're trying to play in a game that we're helping to create. So we can't be mad at anybody but ourselves first. You could be mad at them too, but you got to be mad at yourself first because you allow these things to happen. This country is in trouble. And if this country is in trouble, there plenty more of them are in worse trouble. And we're starting to feel it now. So everybody need to wake up. Election coming up, 2024. Get them on up out there. Start paying attention to the fact of how all we have is Republican and Democratic parties being elected for presidency. Stop voting party line just because you've been a Democrat your whole life. You're like, oh, I'm going to vote for whoever the Democrat is. I used to work at a call center, and I heard that all the time. If I called a person and they were Democrat, oh, well, which one of these candidates? Because you're giving them multiple choice. Do you want to vote for this person, this person, this person, this person? Oh, well, which one is the Democrat? That's the one I'm going to vote for. Just because they're your party line. You don't know any of the principles they stand on. You don't know any of their plans for when they become president. You don't know how their stance is on spending money. You don't know how their stance is on how they're going to handle public things going on. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want my kids learning how to be trans, being a he, she, whatever you want to call it. I don't want my kids learning that. At this point, if there was a candidate who would keep their promise and say that they were going to do away with that, I'd vote for them right now. That's my thing. That's my preference at this moment, is to go ahead and handle that to where they take that about the schools. They're not brainwashing the children with that, and then we'll handle the rest of it the next 4 years. If they did a good thing, if they managed to do that and then some with the economy, hey, let them stay there for another 4. But that's my personal opinion. If you can come out on TV and you can say, oh, well, this needs to stop, we need to stop brainwashing and sexually traumatizing these children, you got my vote. Come on out. But that's my take on it. It's kind of beyond me that people just sit back and twist their thumbs and let these kind of things happen. This world has turned into a whole completely different place since I was a kid, and not in no good way. I don't know where the point got lost. I don't know where morals got lost. I just don't know where this stuff come from. I'm just confused. I get, every time that I'm thinking about these kind of things, I got like 100 thoughts going in my brain, and I'm trying to regurgitate it out into words. So that's why I stumble on my words a lot. And this kind of thing just runs rapid in my brain. I just don't understand it. I mean, I don't know. Tell me what you think. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think that it's unfair that we only have Republicans and Democrats being elected to the presidencies because they're backed by banks? What I'm saying is not lies. You can go look it up. Do you think that it's wrong that I say that Biden needs to get out? I mean, honestly, since he's been in there, what good has he done? I'm just being honest. What good did he do for the general population? I mean, yeah, sure, Brittany Griner's family probably feels like, oh yeah, he did something amazing, but realistically, no. He let a very dangerous man go to bring her home, while there's still soldiers and teachers, and the teachers in there for the same exact thing that she had, that the marijuana situation, And he's been sitting over there for years. The soldier who didn't do anything wrong has been sitting over there for years, and we just left him. So I need you to tell me, what did Biden do to deserve another 4 years in presidency? Because all they do is throw out little key words. Oh, well, we're gonna fight for equality, women's rights, trans rights. All they have to say is, oh, we're for the black people. We're gonna help low income families. They don't keep none of their promises. They just keep telling y'all the same things over and over again, and you vote for them. Wake up, get over it. Find something deep in your heart that tells you he should be president. Don't go off of just what you hear. Go off of what you see too. Believe half of what you hear or shit. Believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. But it's been your girl Drift Nasty. I just wanted to give a quick tidbit on that, because when I heard it last night, I was aggravated. It's hard enough out here, and you constantly raising taxes on people who are barely getting by. Can't afford fresh fruits and healthy food out of the grocery store because you got that jacked way on up higher than the frozen fake food you got in the freezers. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to the channel. Hope to see y'all again later. And everybody be safe.